As we recognize Mother's Day, I'm reminded of this quote: "Motherhood is the greatest thing and the hardest thing." While some may be celebrating, others may hold less festive sentiments, and we're making space for all of it here on Threads of Motherhood, a conversation on love, loss, and connection. That means the joy, the sorrows, the societal pressure, the pieces we aren't normally privileged to say out loud. We honor all of those threads and we honor you for joining us today. Hi, I'm Fatimah, a certified grief coach and trauma support specialist, and I'm on a mission to help us all become more courageous grievers through curiosity, compassion, and connection. My colleagues and I are passionate about growing through loss, and our hope is that you'll be inspired by this discussion. With that context, when you reflect on motherhood, what feels most meaningful or defining in your experience?
Hi, I'm Valerie Alawiye. I am a certified professional grief and mentor coach, and I am a passionate advocate for those navigating chronic illness. I have lived with chronic illness for over half my life, and I was told early on that I should not even attempt to have a child because I was so unwell and on so many different medications. And so, through the challenges over a decade or so, our son was finally born. And as I reflect on motherhood and what is most meaningful and defining about my experience, I recognize that we were given a gift. And I want to honor and hold space for all of those who've had different experiences. There are so many paths to motherhood, and it may not be in the time or the way that we expected, but each experience is unique and sacred and holds so much value.
Thanks for sharing that, Valerie. One of the reasons that we chose this theme of threads is because it is unique and multifaceted, and no two stories are the same. So while this concept of motherhood may certainly make us think of our own mothers, but as you pointed out, it's our experiences with becoming mothers or caregiving for mothers or so many things in between that really make up the concept of motherhood. So thanks for sharing that piece of it.
Hello, I am Christina, founder of Infidelity Hurts Awareness Day and certified professional and grief coach. I work with women navigating the silent grief of infidelity and divorce. When I reflect on motherhood, I think about all the beautiful mother figures that I've been honored to have in my life. I also am taken back to childhood memories when my grandmother and we would get ready for church, make sure our corsages were just right. And then we would end the day celebrating with all the women that were in our lives. I also reflect on the personal journey that I've had with my miracle baby, the love of my existence, and the beautiful bond that I have with my best friend, my confidant, my mom.
It's amazing that you talk about all those generations. I just think of the word legacy, how we as women are so intertwined, not just with our sisters. We talk about sisterhood a lot, but that lineage of having grandmother, mother, daughter, and in addition to the women that surround us, we are a powerful community. We really do run the world as
Mhm.
mothers and as women in general. So to have that thread of multi-generational connection, community, legacy within your own family, and seeing how that plays out with the women that you're coaching and just in the larger community, I think it's so powerful to name in this space because, as we mentioned, we do have to celebrate as well as hold space for those who may be experiencing loss too. So thanks for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what has it been like to move through this day that the world often frames as celebratory when we may be carrying something a bit heavier?
Mhm. That's a very important question, Fatima. Say for me, it's been extremely challenging. Mother's Day is a beautiful day, right?
Hmm.
Yet many of us are experiencing grief in so many different aspects. And in some cases, there's a feeling of emptiness. And so for me, I'm reminded, how do I balance the feeling of grief and still honor the beauty of Mother's Day? It's been extremely important for me to remember and acknowledge that they can both coexist. I am allowed to feel every emotion that I need to feel and still show up as a mom and celebrate the women around me.
You
I,
named this part about where it's like we don't have to pick and choose. Sometimes people think if you've lost your mom, you have to be sad, or if your mom is here, you must be happy. But we can hold space for both. We can long for the child we never had and be happy for our relationships with our mothers at the same time. We can be sad. We can simultaneously have gratitude. So I appreciate the fact that we don't have to choose and we can hold all of it. And most importantly, without this judgment or shame that's sometimes attached to grief in general, let alone to Mother's Day. It's really a spectrum when we think about grief. It's not just the sorrow and despair, but grief is love as well. So when we're thinking about our loved ones, when we're holding gratitude for our journey, that is grief, but it is most importantly an expression of love, which is why there's no reason to hide it or run away from it.
yeah, I totally agree. Mother's Day holds many layers as we're talking about. There's both celebration and mourning for some, and love and loss. And so, as someone who lost my mother 20 years ago this year from complications related to breast and bone cancer, just 4 days after her birthday in April, I resonate with that void in the soul that I feel every year around the time that others are celebrating things like birthdays and anniversaries and other celebrations along with her death. And so I'll never forget that I took her birthday presents to the hospital before she passed, a few days before she passed. And then a few days later, I literally had to take those gifts back. And what stuck with me is that when we celebrate, we give cards and gifts and flowers and balloons, but all those things remain when someone passes, and reminds me that time is the most precious gift of all. And that's what we as grief coaches want to help support people, to allow them to hold that space, to process this time in whatever way is meaningful for them, for sure.
I think also as grief coaches and first and foremost, my condolences to you because as you pointed out, grief has no timeline. It is a part of us forever, just like your mom is always a part of you forever. And as coaches, it's not only for us to help individual clients through their own grief, but I think you touched on something about how we treat others and we give those gifts or we're there at the time the loved one passes, but what about the days, the weeks, the months, the years after? So this is a reminder to keep checking on your loved ones, your friends, no matter how you think they're feeling or no matter how they're presenting, there's always something more. And as I mentioned in the beginning, one of my goals is to view grief with curiosity. So
Mm.
not being afraid about asking how they feel. Yes, it's been 20 years. And what does that feel like for you today? What would your mom say to you right now? What do you want to say to her right now? Is there anything that I can do to help you remember? Would you like me to do a new ritual with you? So those things are important in the communication of grief because grief really does have a language. And it's important to keep asking, to keep being curious, and to keep engaging with our loved ones and friends before, during, and after a loss. They need the community.
Those are beautiful questions. And I hadn't considered some of those things. So I am definitely going to hold some space and think about that.
Sure. Because we also know that this is about storytelling too. When we talked about legacy and your mom, you're passing those things down. You're talking to your son. You're talking to others about the woman who she was. And it's like we want to share those things, but sometimes we think that it's not acceptable to share, especially if it's been 20 years. Society sometimes tells us like that we're supposed to be over it. But when we give not only ourselves permission, but others permission to share their stories, it really is a gift, like you mentioned. And it's the gift that keeps on giving.
Mm.
So also in this season, how do you experience that connection? And I'm thinking about how do you embrace community and connection as a means of support in this season?
Sure. I experience connection by sharing. So I noticed the same with many of my coaching clients. For so long, I assumed that I was the only one going through whatever it was that I was going through. But sharing, including, receiving and providing coaching, whether it's about my chronic illness or the journey through motherhood or navigating death and loss, I've discovered that there are others who are experiencing or who have experienced something similar always, which helps me feel more connected. And I have some amazing people in my life who inspire me every day, including the coaches who are a part of the Institute for Professional Grief Coaching and are available to support others navigating grief at all layers. And of course, our amazing founder, Miss Dora Carpenter, and of course, the two of you. I realize that oftentimes I need to make that first step and reach out to connect with others, which gives them permission, as you said, to do the same. So there's so many people in the grief coaching community who are willing to provide that compassionate, non-judgmental space and will reach back.
Thanks for the shout out. I'm truly proud of us because we are pioneers in this space. A year ago, 5 years ago, and definitely 10 years ago, they weren't having these conversations like we're having now. And and giving that more profound understanding of grief and seeing it as a part of overall well-being and a part of us versus something to rush through or get over. So we're changing the game and the best way. And I'm so glad to be a part of this community with the two of you and our team. In fact, all week here at Grief TV, we're celebrating this theme of threads of motherhood. So be sure to tune in to our other coaches' videos because, again, it's just so much to explore. And we really hope that something resonates with you because grief, sadness, despair, they cannot stay inside. They have to be expressed. And when you do express them, it's the instant catalyst to additional and deep healing. What about you, Christina?
Valerie, I think you said something that was really, really important, and it's sharing. And I'm also excited and honored to share this space with you too. I would say that my biggest epiphany in connection is the epiphany I had where I'm not alone, right? Through my work, I've learned that even in the moments of isolation, in the moments where I feel like no one understands, it's that quiet whisper that says, me too. So knowing that others understand exactly how I feel and exactly what I'm going through, it gives me a sense of hope as well as connection. And that looks like building community through shared experiences.
Mm-hmm. Everyone has a story, and
Mhm.
it's almost, I dare to say, exciting when you do finally get the courage to share, and somebody says, "Me too," or somebody says, "Gosh, I have a similar story," or "I know someone who's had a similar story." It almost gives like an instant bond, and it makes you feel good. Not saying that it instantly erases the sad feelings, but what it does is leverage, things are better together. So if you are with someone else and they understand how you feel or are at least again curious and compassionate about how you feel, you can almost physically feel the weight lift. You get lighter. You do get more excited. That is where the gratitude kicks in, and you're able to grow with grief and through grief and not push it away or think that it's something that's supposed to be separate from you. So again, I don't want to sound a little too off the box, but I love that we get to talk about grief and do this work. And it's not the way that we used to view it, where it is literally like the end. It's truly a beginning and more. It can be beautiful. So, any final thoughts or words of wisdom to share?
Sure. I would just want to share with everyone that whatever your experience is with this Mother's Day, whether you're celebrating or struggling, remembering or grieving, may you find a moment for yourself for grace and light.
And I would say on this Mother's Day, give yourself permission to honor your grief and hold space for yourself without judgment. You grieve because you love. Happy Mother's Day.
Yes, happy Mother's Day. And we've said it all, giving yourself permission to grieve, not hiding any way that you feel, making sure that your losses, whether they're big or small in your eyes, are given space to really, really be explored and expressed. So again, we are truly excited and passionate about this work. We hope that this conversation really sparked something for you, whether it is that nudge to go have a conversation or to journal or to join a community or to even connect with us. And um, we wish you the best on your grief journey. Take care.